Hey, it's Kathy with Rock Your Retirement. And as promised, today's Friday, and so you'll be getting to listen to Henry Shapiro's Retired Excited. I know you're just going to love this as much as I do. And don't forget, you can still listen to Rock Your Retirement, where I'm the host, and those shows are released on Mondays.
Welcome to the Retired Excited podcast. Retired Excited, the show where we give retired and want to be retired folk a look at how great retired life can be. Here we talk to men and women who are happily retired and loving their life. We explore the techniques, activities, beliefs, and excitement of these happy retirees and examine how every Tom, Dick, and Mary can benefit from their experience. Together, we will delve into what retired happiness really looks like and how anyone can achieve it.
Here is your host, Henry Shapiro.
Hey folks, Henry here at Retired Excited, the show providing inspiration for people who are nearly retired, newly retired, or say they're never going to retire. If you're nearing retirement and fearful of what lies ahead, you don't need to be. If you're already retired and wondering how to fill your days, then this show is exactly for you. Here we talk to retired people doing things that make them happy. Things from stamp collecting to cruising, from dancing to touring the world on a motorbike. There's an exciting stage of life to be enjoyed after full-time work, and it's got nothing to do with your financial situation or social position. We talk to everyday retired people who are living the life they want, and we talk to a few professionals to get expert advice. And I chip in with some of my own experiences. Hey everybody, here we are at Retired Excited, episode number 14. Golly, don't the weeks go by, don't they? Lots of people want to do crazy things in their life and to challenge themselves. Des rides motorbikes. He rides motorbikes a long, long way. He's a member of the Far Riders and Iron Butt Association. That's it, Iron Butt, as in very strong backside. Now, the objective of those two organisations is to ride a long way in a certain time. So, for instance, one of their challenges might be to ride 1,000 kilometres in 24 hours. Another one, and this is more appropriate overseas, is 1,000 miles in 24 hours. If you convert that back to kilometres, that's 1,600 kilometres. That's a long way to go in just a day, and that's what they do. But that's not all they do. They have multiple day challenges, all sorts of challenges. Des talks about what he's done and why he does it, the sort of challenges he's taken on, how successful he's been, how he prepares for those rides. And they take a fair bit out of your body, and you have to be mentally prepared for them as well. So he talks about all that. He talks about the preparation. He talks about the logistics, how you get organised, how you arrange the rides, how you work out the route that you're going to take on the rides, and the places that he's been, the places and the people that he's met. I half think that the people he's met is a good part of the story. Let's have Des tell us all about it. Here we go. Hi there, Des. How are you?
Morning, Henry. How are you?
I'm extremely well. Des, we're going to talk about bikes, but what this is really all about is what people do when they are coming up to retirement. And some people don't know, they haven't planned for their retirement. They don't quite know what they're going to do. So let's just talk about that first. What were you doing before you retired?
Immediately before I retired, I had a takeaway food shop, a milk bar, working around about 100 to 125 hours a week, 7 days a week job.
Must have paid well.
Paid very well. And we were planning caravanning when we retired, which was probably going to be another 10 years away. And that was sort of our plan. We'll travel around Australia in a caravan. Unfortunately, I got a little bit ill, so we brought the retirement forward a little bit. And we brought a caravan, and away we went. We travelled around Australia for 5 months.
Enjoy it?
Yeah. Loved it, actually. And we do a lot of caravanning. I really enjoy it. We probably do 5 months of the year in the caravan, and the rest is at home and trying to get out on a motorbike where possible.
Yeah.
So
you're in the shop.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking to yourself, I'm going to retire soon, and when I give it away, I'm going to go away on the caravan. And that's what really happened.
And that's what really happened. We wanted to go. I've travelled a lot, motorbike, etc., in different parts of Australia, cars, moteled it, pubbed it, done all that, travelled a lot in Australia, but we wanted to take our time.
Yep.
So the caravan option was good, brought a big van, a ute to tow it, and away we went, and we stopped at a lot of places more than a night.
Right.
We free camped a lot, which is camping on sides of river, free camps on the side of the road, places like that.
What is it about caravanning that you like?
The people that you meet, and it's amazing how many people you meet that actually know someone that you know from your area. That always amazed me. In Broome, you meet someone that, I live up the road from you, mate.
So I normally start and ask people this, where are we? Where, when you say up the road, where are we doing this interview?
We're in Berwick.
Okay.
We're in Berwick. Yes.
We're in Des's house in Berwick.
In Berwick, yes.
And his wife has scarpered off into the other room so that she doesn't interrupt him because she's
doesn't correct the dates.
That's right.
Ruin my stories.
That's right.
Yeah, so we've hooked up, planning to spend a good 12 months in the caravan, travelling around Australia, doing the big lap, dropping off and visiting people that we know, because we have family in every capital city. We have a family.
Okay.
And we did, and we got down to Cheryl's brother in Jurien Bay, which is in between Perth and Geraldton. And then my sister got very ill in hospital, cancer. The message was sent, back home.
Okay.
So hooked it all up, straight across the Nullarbor in the dark, get back as quick as I could.
Cool. Can I ask, when you retired, how old were you? When you sold the shop, let's say?
58, 59.
So that's, yeah.
Yes, quite, as I say, we planned to be 10 years.
Yeah.
And I got ill, and I was in hospital for over 2 weeks.
Right.
You get a lot of time to think, lying on your back looking at the ceiling, and you can only ogle the nurses for so long.
Right.
Then they slap your face. And I lied there thinking, I thought, well, we have a holiday house in Lakes Entrance. Mm-hmm. We didn't really use it. We rented it out. We own our house. We own our cars. We own the caravan. Own the motorbike, the Goldwing. I'm not going to work these hours, die, and leave the kids all my money. No. They can get it like I did.
Yes.
So I said to the wife, I got out of hospital, I come home, and I said, we will sell everything.
Before we started this interview, I was talking to Des, and he was telling me that he's done a bunch of things in his early life, and most of them were hard physical work. So between that and then 120 hours in the shop a week, that's enough, isn't it?
That was enough, yeah. Well, coming off a dairy farm, Henry, and you being a farmer would know, you put a lot of hours in. Yeah. People that I call them city people, as I call them, 9-to-5ers, that do not understand the man on the land. They don't know what he goes through. It's a very hard life, but it's a very rewarding life.
You work till the light gives out. That's what happens
right.
on the farm.
Sun up to sundown. Every morning from our cow shed, we seen the sun come up, Dad and I, and we'd be looking out there every morning and say, what a wonderful life.
Yes,
and it was terrific. So,
well, let's transition then into motorbikes. What started you with the motorbikes?
Motorbikes I started when I was quite young. My father tried to teach me how to ride a horse. He was a horseman. And you can probably edit this little bit out. He said, as long as your ass points to the ground, you'll never be able to ride a horse. So I got onto trail bikes because my mates, a couple of them had bikes. I'd be 15. And I thought, this is all right. And I just stayed away from for a while because I had a car and done that normal stuff that young blokes in the country do. And then another mate brought a bike. He didn't know how to get it going. I was a little bit more mechanically minded than him. So we played with it and we took turns of sitting on it and getting pushed. When it fired up, I was on it.
Yes.
It was a straight road of about 4 kilometres long, so away I went. And I thought, I don't know how to stop it. I knew how to stop it, but I don't know how am I going to turn this thing around and keep it going. After a while, I sort of worked it out and I come back and said, this is fun. I went out and bought one the very next day.
Fantastic.
And that got me into bikes pretty much when I was 18.
I got a very similar story. I had a mate... what was I? I was in 5th form, and I don't know how he got an old BSA, and he had a very steep drive. So we're pushing this thing up the drive, and then one of us would sit on it and push it down the drive, and there was a fibro garage at the bottom of the drive. Well, it happened to fire while I was sitting on it. Straight through the back of the fibro garage.
Hey.
That can happen.
Yes, it can happen. I've had many a close call on the bike, and some of my mates have had some real rippers. Yes.
Nice thing. So you're riding bikes in your early days, but now you're on a road bike.
I transitioned to a road bike fairly quick. I rode the dirt bike, the first fella, which was a 185 Kawasaki, and I rode it around the bush tracks of local, learned a little bit about riding the bike, throwing it around, running off the road into the scrub, etc., going too fast. And I thought, I'm forever cleaning it. I'm going to get a road bike. An opportunity come up where another mate had a chainsaw accident, chopped off about 3 of his fingers, and he'd only just bought a brand new 350 Honda. And he put the deposit on it, made a couple of payments, so after a little bit of negotiation,
I took it over.
So I had my first road bike, and I've stuck with road bikes ever since.
Yeah. Now, you've got a monster road bike at the moment.
I have.
How long have you had that?
I've had this particular one for about... Counting on his fingers.
He's counting on his fingers.
I got it in 2011, this particular one I have now, which is a 2006 Goldwing with 5,000 kilometres on it.
Just tell the listeners what a Goldwing is.
All right, it's a Honda Goldwing, a GL 1800, which is a 1.8 litre six-cylinder, a flat six.
That's bigger than some cars.
That's bigger than some cars. It has reverse gear. It has a 6-stacker CD, cruise control. It's a very comfortable motorbike. It's very good for riding, and it's quiet. It doesn't make any noise.
Unlike some bikes we could mention.
Yes,
okay.
we don't even go there.
No.
Yes, and that's the third Goldwing that I've actually owned. I previously brought one as a wreck, and in my spare time, me and a mate, he done most of the work, I have to say.
Yes.
Repaired it all. Because I was working so much, I never rode it, so I sold it.
What is it about the Goldwings that you like?
Comfortable, very good touring bike, and I wanted to get into touring.
Right.
You can tour on anything. I've seen people tour on 125s. Fine, if that's what they want to do, but I'm lazy. So I wanted something comfortable that I could sit on all day. Put all my gear on the bike. It's got panniers. You carry a lot of luggage if you want. If you'll probably ask me later, but I rode for 20 days, 17 days actually. I was away from home for 20 days. And I'd done 20,000 kilometres.
Goodness, mate.
So every day I rode, starting roughly 3:30 in the morning, and I took food on the bike, I took everything I needed, and I lived off the bike for 20 days. I went around Australia.
That's the aspect that I wanted to talk to you about, and that's what I had in mind as the object of this interview. I've heard the words far rider and I've heard the words iron butt. Just explain what that is.
Well, the Iron Butt Association is an American long-distance riding club. As
in sore backside?
Yes, sore backside, yes, yeah. Iron butt. And over there they do huge, big rides, and they do a rally over there every 2 years. It's 11,000 miles in 11 days.
Whoa.
So that's a big... And they do it. There's a lot of people do it, but you've got to be selected to do it. You have to apply for it. But
that's like 1,600 kilometres a day.
Exactly. 1,600 a day. You do that for 11 days.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
Not something I've had a crack at.
But what you've done is 1,000 kilometres a day for 17 days.
Yes.
So it's like a marathon. I mean, it's...
Well, it was, and it took me some years to plan it.
Yeah.
The previous year I had a warm-up, which was, I went in 10 days, I'd done 10,000, which was every state and territory border.
Right.
So I did, Western Australia, South Australia. I went up to Katherine, across to Kununurra and back in one day, because that's where the Western Australia Northern Territory border is.
Yeah.
And I went around and I'd done all the borders. I'd done that in 10 days. I'd done it quite comfortably. And I thought, yeah, okay, well, I can do this other one, which was based around going to capital city GPOs.
Right.
And
so you actually had to ride into the cities?
I had to ride into every city. Yes, and ride out, of course.
That's not fun.
No, some of them weren't fun. Fortunately, some other people in the Far Riding Club, which is the Australian, it's sort of the Australian version of the Iron Butt, but I don't know version, but it's an arm of it type of thing. We do similar things.
Yes.
They have the bigger rides, give certified rides. You have to have witnesses to say you've done all this. You have forms have to be signed, witnesses, fuel dockets to say what time you started, where you started, etc., what time you finished, where you finished. Has to be signed. You send all the paperwork off to America. they send you a certificate, which I've got some hanging up in the wall in the office.
Right.
And so it's all, you can't cheat. If someone says, I've done 2,000 in 24 hours, and someone will say, yeah, that's impossible. Well, it's not.
Right.
I've done a few, and it's not. It's very well planned.
Just what do you mean about the fuel dockets? What's that story
Well,
about?
when you start, your 24 hours start when you get your first fuel docket.
Right.
So you do everything. You get signatures on your form.
So it's 3:30 in the morning.
Yep, 3:30.
You find yourself a petrol station.
Yep. That's the start of your 24 hours. Whatever time it says on there, check it to make sure it's correct, because some panel operators sometimes can be a little out. They can even be a day out. So you check that to make sure it's right, and away you go. And you don't speed. I will stress that. You do not speed. People that have come with me know that you don't speed.
Okay, why don't you speed?
Well, you get booked. You don't want to lose your licence.
That'll be
Henry.
good.
No, you don't want to get... because it's all about, as all motorbikes are, it's risk management.
Yes.
So the risk management is your time, your body, your mind. That all comes into it, because 24 hours is a long time to stay awake. And in that 24 hours, most people do 2,000 kilometres in 22 hours that ride these bikes. That's pretty normal, about 22, 23 hours. Wow. That's about normal. It's nothing to do with speeding. Mm. You can work out the averages. You only got to punch in 1,600 kilometres by 24 hours. That's 68 kilometres an hour average. Right. Obviously, you pick roads that you can sit on the speed limit.
But if let's say you think, well, I want to do this easy, I'll go into the outback of the Northern Territory. You got long straight roads. Well, I shouldn't say the Northern Territory because they've got an open speed limit, but
part of it has, yes.
Yes. I ride a bike. It's very tempting to just let it creep up a little bit.
Twist the throttle. And this can be checked quite easily. There's a fella in the far riding club that I know. He's actually done 3,000 kilometres in 24 hours. Done it in the Northern Territory. Started at Camel Wheel and went up the three ways, Alice Springs, maybe Catherine, and then back to Camel Wheel. I just forget the exact. Yeah. It's all documented. It's all written. He wrote a story. He done it in 23 hours and 23 minutes or something like that. Mm-hmm. He didn't have a lot of time spare. He planned it over months. He went up and seen the service stations, told them what he was doing and how he would come in with a $100 note in his hand, and they would have their change ready when he walked in the door. And he was filling his motorbike up in 6 minutes, and he was out.
Great. Yeah.
And this is where the management comes in. You see, the planning.
Yeah, so it's a whole tactical sort of
the less
exercise.
time you're off your bike, the more time you're sitting on a speed limit, the more you get done. What
does it do to your body?
Yes, if you're not used to doing it, it's pretty hard on your body at times. I exercise on the bike, and I go along and throw my legs around and move my arms and jump up and down and do squats and things on the bike while I'm doing. So your exercise, it's around about, I do it once an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, so it takes about 10 minutes to go through it just to keep the circulation going. Sometimes you can.
So you've got a regular routine that you
I have
do?
a regular routine I do when I do bike riding. Yeah. You hydrate. You have a camelback.
Camelback, yeah.
And you do hydrate. That's a big thing. Hydration is very, very important. And you eat different foods. You don't pull up the servo and chow down on a couple of meat pies. Out of the question. As much as I like to. I actually, when I'd done these 17 days, I went to a nutritionist and I'd done some 24-hour rides with what I told her what time I was starting, what time I would stop for breaks, etc. And she put me on certain foods to be eaten certain times of the day. And I think over an 18-month period, I'd done 4 or 5 24-hour rides, and I had a little digital recorder velcroed to the dash of the bike. Every hour and a half I had to talk into it to tell her how I was feeling. Okay. And I'd go back and play it back to her, and she'd change my food around. And it was a very serious thing that I'd done.
This is serious, isn't it?
And to find out what's good for me, because it's different for other people. Gatorade, them sort of drinks. She'd said not to have Gatorade. I buy the powder and I mix my own, but I only need 1 bottle in 24 hours, unless it's really, really hot and I'm doing something physical.
This is to get the salts into you.
It's to get the electrolytes into your body. So she said 1 bottle in 24 hours. So you can drink a fair few litres of water, your Camelback. When I was having something to eat, it was like a couple of mouthfuls, chomp, couple of mouthfuls, back in the top box, go. So, yeah, it was very well planned. It took me some years to plan all this.
Has there been any incidents when you've been on these rides?
Yeah, I've had one incident. I'm fortunate that if I feel a little tired, I can pull over, put my head down and have a 10-minute nanny nap, and I can go out in 10 minutes, bang, gone. One day it was dark and I pulled over and I went past the first, I seen the sign, you know, the little table and all that, so I thought, that's where I'll go. I missed the first turn, I got into the second turn, come back, put my head down, I woke up, you know, I probably had looked at the thing 10, 15 minutes, jumped on the bike and roared off. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at a few things on the side of the road and I thought, gee, I've seen these before. I'd done 5 Ks before I realised I was going in the wrong direction.
Gone back.
So another Yui, and away I went again. You have, if you get fatigue, which is a very serious problem doing these things, you have to know your own body a little bit. You have to be a little crazy, that's fair to say. You know, there's some people that do a lot bigger rides than I'd have ever done, and they are a little unusual when you talk to them. So you have to be unusual. You have to be a little out of kilter at times, I think, and you have to enjoy it. I mean, it's you're on your own, and a lot of people that ride motorbikes, when you get 60-year-old plus, will say that it's good for their mind. It is quite relaxing to get out. And my missus can't hear me at the moment, but stop them nagging in your ear about something that should be done at home. I hope she's not at the door. Anyway, there's all that sort of stuff. Incidents I've had, yeah, you probably have to edit some of this too. It wasn't on a far ride or an IBA ride. I was up visiting my sister and brother-in-law in Brisbane, and we had a party the night before I left, which was pretty normal. There was always something going on. So we called it a pizza and port party just for the sake of an argument. And I'm up at 3 o'clock, up past 3 in the morning. It's pretty normal. Away I go. And I got out the highway a little bit and how am I going to put this? I wanted to let some wind go. So I just lifted my bum off the seat a little bit, as you do when you ride a motorbike, and if you know about it. And had a bit of follow through. And she was pretty runny. And I thought, oh boy, you want to try and pull up a motorbike with all that in your pants and jump off the bike and pull them down, get your boots off and it's running down your leg and get in the grass and cleaning everything. And, yeah, cars going past, going beep, 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 beep. Yeah, righto, mate, I know. Fortunately, I had to change of clothes, so found a plastic bag and got the dirty clothes in the bag. So
gotcha.
I
did mean to ask you about toilet things, but
yeah, that's the one. So
I'll
now,
probably never forget that. I've got the image in my mind.
Yeah, I thought if you can visualise it,
yes.
It's very hard to get off a bike without sitting down first.
Yes.
But anyway, we got around that, and I've laughed about that for a lot of years. So now I'm very distrustful of that particular bowel movement when I'm riding a motorbike. Yeah, so that's one. I've gone the wrong direction. Yes, I've been because you plan these rides pretty good. You start planning. You know you're going to do a ride. You change your eating, drinking habits days before you go.
Okay.
And having said that, which I nearly always do, and I have led a few people on these rides. I've said you want to do an IBA ride. I was going
to ask you that. Do you go in convoy with, not convoy, but a couple of you go together or 3?
Yes, I have done that. Generally, you do it on your own because you don't get held up at service stations. You just get in, you're gone. So generally, you go on your own. It's more efficient to go on your own. But when you get someone that rides with you that knows what it's about, you can do it as quick. I done one in January where 4 of us. And there's no problem at all. I said, when you get to a service station, you fill up, just move forward. If there's not enough pounds, just have the next person, well, you're paying, he's filling up. And you allow 15 minutes and we do it easy. And the next stop, we're going to have a break. We'll have something to eat, whatever.
So how far can you go on one tank?
I can do shade over 400, but I plan 350. All my stops, I go tank to tank. And so it's 340, 350, 360, maybe 370. I will have it planned on a running sheet. So
that dictates your route in some respects. You've got to find a route where you can get
you have to, and if you have to get what they call a corner docket, which means you've gone up this road and come back this road, but if you're in a hurry, you could take a shortcut across. Well, you have to stop to get a receipt of some sort. It doesn't have to be fuel. It can be from a bank machine to say you went to that town, so that when you send your paperwork in, the blue line shows where you went.
They can see where you really went.
Yeah, so you can't cheat. I don't know. There's no way you can cheat on it.
What's the attraction of it to you? Why would you do it?
That's a very good question. I've enjoyed long distance driving in a car, riding a motorbike, even on a push bike when I was younger. I used to ride 10 miles it was, and it was a big hill at the end of that 10 miles. And the attraction there was, once you get to the top, you turn around and freewheel all the way home. Well, not all the way home, but down the hill, which was about a mile and a half, I think, the hill. Do you see anything? Yeah, of course you do. You just see twice as much. Some people say, well, yeah, you don't see anything. Of course you do. You see just as much as if you were doing 300 kilometres in a day. You see the same things.
I tell you what I love is you're going through farming country, particularly dairy farming country.
The smell.
And the smell of the silage.
I love silage.
Love the smell of the silage.
City people don't understand that. It's going back to the difference. Yeah. You're right, not just the silage, but the smell of everything. The early morning as the sun rises, the smell of the gum trees, the smell of someone's cutting hay in a paddock. Even if you're driving out, someone's mowed the lawn the day before, you can smell new, fresh cut grass. Yes. You don't smell that in a car.
That's right.
You can smell the animals. And I'll tell you what is a really terrible smell. Let's see, it smells like a dead animal. It's the one with the yellow flower. I can't think what their crop's called now. But canola. When it's ready to be ripe, I believe, it has a smell about it.
Right.
It stinks.
Yeah.
You see a paddock of yellow, fortunately I'm not going down that road. It does stink. But the smells in the air and, it's all, freedom, you hear that all the time, which it is. But you've got the wind, you've got the smell, you're close to nature, aren't you? You're very close to nature out there.
Especially if you come off.
Well, you see a lot more things than you do in a car. And I think people that ride motorbikes are better car drivers. That's, of course, if they're a fair motorbike rider. You see a lot more things than what people believe you see.
Is it something, I guess, really to do the sort of riding you're doing, the long-distance riding? You have had to be riding a motorbike for a long time. He's nodding, folks. Just generally riding a bike, is it something you'd recommend to people?
I do. I also recommend that it's dangerous.
Yes.
Have no mistake. Riding a motorbike is dangerous because sometimes I think we're invisible. You have to be very, very aware of your surroundings. And it's not always the car driver's fault when people have motorbike accidents. Bikes are very quick from A to B. You can twist a throttle and you can leapfrog a couple of cars very, very fast, especially on the powerful sports bikes. Someone can look in their mirror and say there's a motorbike 3 cars back. He can watch the car in front of him, look up again, where'd that bike go? He's beside him. Yes. And the people that ride bikes have got to understand that.
Yeah.
And then that way they protect themselves. You have to ride quite defensively in traffic. Out on the highways, it's a little different.
In Victoria, where we are, there's just been an amazing number of motorcycle deaths this year. Much more than... I think we're up to the total for the year. 28.
Yes, that's very bad.
It's very bad, but there's been statistics in the papers. Whose fault was it? Was the bike? Was it chance? And for a good...
And so
people always say to people in cages, motorbike people call car people cages.
Yep.
But a good number of them are the bikie's fault.
Oh, yes, and some of them don't have a licence. I think there's a very high rate of them don't have licences. And I think, you and I being roughly the same age, we grew up in very underpowered bikes compared to what you can get on now. In our era, they were the norm to have a 250, something like, which went hard. Yeah. But, then you went to a 350 and now everyone's got 600s and they're rocket ships. Yeah. I've ridden one. Good fun to ride. But, boy, gee, they get up and go. And they stop quite well too.
Yes.
Especially if you hit something. But, I think we've had that education, and I was fortunate enough to keep riding even when I didn't have a motorbike. As normal, you have bikes, you get married and have kids. You sell your bike to buy the baby's clothes.
Did that.
And therefore you're off the bike, and I was for a good many years, but I had mates that had bikes and they're kind enough to let me ride their bike whenever I felt like I wanted to go away for the day, get on the bike and ride. mainly because when they got the bike back, it had a full tank of fuel and it was always washed. It was always clean. They were quite happy, and I looked after their bikes. So I continued my riding constantly since I was, we'll just say from 9. It's just say when I got my licence, I constantly rode motorbike.
So you're highly experienced, and now I've got to say that riding a bike has made me a much more cautious car driver.
Well, you're more aware.
Yeah.
You're more aware. You see things on a bike that you don't see in the car. Now, when you get in a car, you transfer that over, and your vision, your peripheral vision, it seems to be greater.
Yes.
Because you use it on a bike.
Yes.
On a car, you tend to be tunnel vision.
Yeah, you're looking at the windscreen, that's about it.
That's about it. So you transfer that over and you know what to look for. You know the different bikes. And, you look at a bike and you say, there's a couple of Harley riders coming because they're distinctive. They all look the same because they're individuals. And you can edit that out so you don't get an argument. But, you can see, people riding a postie bike, different again. So, scooters, they all look different, but you know what to look for and you know what they are.
Not to do with bikes, but just generally in life. As people are coming up towards retirement, they think, what am I going to do? I'm going to be bored. I don't know. What's your advice to them? What would you say to people coming up to retirement?
I never thought too much about retirement until I got a bit sick. And I can remember I worked with my dad on the farm for a good many years, and he was always going to travel around Australia when he retired. Unfortunately, he died when he was only 47, so he never got to retirement age. And I always thought, well, I'm not going to die young like him. What am I going to do when I retire? Am I going to I enjoy gardening. Am I going to have a great garden at home? Am I going to rebuild old motorbikes? No, I'm not going to build old motorbikes. I'll fiddle around in the garden. To me, a motorbike, you've got to ride it. So I discussed it with my wife, and she likes caravanning. So that was we talked about it a bit. And
so I think I'm gathering from what you're saying is to think about it before you retire. Have a plan that your wife and you both agree on. It might be, and I'm almost embarrassed to say this, my wife likes to cruise. We've only been on one cruise. Not quite my cup of tea.
But you'll go for the sake of an argument.
That's right. But you discuss it with your wife and have something in mind. I think that's what you're saying.
Yes, you have to, certainly have to, your partner, you have to discuss it. You can't be selfish. Said that motorbike riding is very selfish.
Yes.
I've said that for many years. I tell my wife it's a very selfish hobby that I have, because although she come with me for years, we went camping and everything, but she doesn't come so much. It is a selfish pastime because I'm going on my own. I just ring up of a night time, tell her where I am. And it's a bit like photography. If people get into photography, they go off and they're in their own little world. They don't talk to anyone. They're taking photos. That's another selfish pastime, but that's another subject. And so you talk about cruises. My wife went on a cruise. I didn't go with her. My sister went with her. I said, you've got to fly in aeroplanes, and aeroplanes are dangerous things. You hear about them crashing and all that. I don't want to go in an aeroplane. Anyway, she went to New Zealand for a fortnight, and they loved it. So she come back, and she's talked me into going on a cruise.
Congratulations.
Yeah. We're going
It's a girl thing, I'm sure.
I think it is a girl thing, but she just talked and she said, I'd like you to go on one. And I said, well, look, I'll have a crack at it.
Yeah, I've got to say, when I got back, I did quite enjoy it. It was all right.
Well, our cruise is going to leave Melbourne. It's going to go to Port Lincoln, and it's going to come back to Melbourne. But Adelaide, Kangaroo Island is what sold me, because we wanted to go to Kangaroo Island. It's quite an expensive place to go to. We want to go to Kangaroo Island. She says, here's a cruise that's going to stop there. Okay.
Give it a
Let's
whirl.
do it. So it's in December. Yeah. We're booked. See how we go.
There you go. That sounds like a good place to wind this up. So can I thank you very much? I think you've given people a lot to think about. I think that distance riding is not for people who have just come into motorcycling.
No, definitely not.
But if you've been riding a bike through your life and you've got a bit of experience, well, as you said, plan, do a few test rides, and you can really enjoy it.
You can, and plan is you plan the ride, you ride the plan.
Yes.
And it will turn out. Yes, time management is a very important thing.
Yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Henry. No problems.
Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it, that long-distance riding, like the sort of riding that Des does, is not for everybody. It's not even for every motorcyclist. You certainly couldn't be doing this if you're a new rider or inexperienced. But if you've been riding for your whole life the way Des has, this might be something that creates a new challenge for you. You might think to yourself, well, why do people do stuff like this? Oh, well, people climb mountains, don't they? And they run marathons. They do all sorts of activities. And there's very few of those activities that are suitable for people, let's say, who are getting on in life, who are a little bit older, seniors. And that's one of the attractions, I think, of long-distance riding. You can do it. There's, let's just put it this way, he's over 60. I reckon the important part about what he's doing, and for anybody, is that he's living his life. He's not just existing, he's actually making something out of his life, even within his retirement. He's not just sitting around singing mournful songs while watching his kids book a place in a nursing home for him. He's out there doing stuff. And not only just doing stuff, but he's creating stories for himself, stories for his grandchildren. Do you challenge yourself? Not very many people in their retirement actually challenge themselves. They don't do new stuff. They don't keep abreast with technology, let's say. That's what keeps us alive. Keep stretching your mind. Keep doing things. If you do challenge yourself, either physically or mentally, how about telling us about it in the box on the website? Just go to the website, episode number 14, retiredexcited.com. Find the podcast tag in the menu. Go to episode 14 and tell us about what you do to challenge yourself and keep your brain active, keep your body active. All the other listeners would love to hear about it. So that's it for today. Contact me if you want to directly, henry@retiredexcited.com, and I look forward to hearing from you. Keep well, keep happy. See you next time.
I like that. I'm going to give that a go for sure.
Ian,
That's terrific.
Hey, I like
That was
that.
interesting. What a good idea.